Today I'm sketching with paint. Hi everyone, Steve Elliott here again. I'm working in Artrage again. I'm loving this app on the iPad at the minute. Can't get enough of it. I'm just enjoying the oil paint. One time a day I was really into the watercolours and sort of the softer mediums really. But at the minute I'm just loving these thick oil paints. And I thought I'd try something different. I think it was it's just the weather and the fact that we're in autumn and the colours just sort of spark off my, there's that Facebook notification again. Very annoying. Yeah, the colours, they just totally spark my imagination and inspiration, and I just want to paint. And I thought, you know what? I just want to do a sketch, but you don't have to sketch with a pencil or some watercolours. You can sketch with paint. Now, if you're using traditional media, like oil paints and what have you, it's an expensive game just to do a sketch in oil paint. But that is not so with the digital side of things. So you can explore a lot more with digital media, and it doesn't, or medium, and it doesn't cost you anything. So you can be a lot sort of more expressive and try different things. So I just wanted to use the oil paints to produce a sketch. This painting from start to finish took me 35 minutes. And I just enjoyed using the paint to make the marks and just sketch out something that could be a lot more detailed if I wanted. But I was really pleased with the spontaneity of it and the colours that I chose, and I didn't overwork it. I didn't keep going at it. It was just a sketch, and as you see, as this painting progresses, I've only slowed this down 2.5 times, because like I say, it took 35 minutes to paint. So you'll get to see my brush strokes a lot closer than probably normal, and just a little bit faster speed than what I actually normally paint at. And I'm going in with the sky. I'm not picking the colours off of the photograph. I'm using the colour selector to choose my colours. I haven't made a palette at all. I do from time to time pick up the pictures off the painting that pick up the colours off the painting that I've already laid down. But I don't use the photo. I did try it in one place, and it just, the colour was just way too dark. So I just used my own palette, and I wanted it to be a lot more vibrant and brighter colours than in the photograph, because the photo looks a little bit dull. But when you're out walking down a country lane in autumn, everything just seems so vibrant and bright, and the colours are just sort of bouncing everywhere. And that's much more what I wanted to try and achieve in this sketch. But I keep the colours in the sky muted because I wanted the tree to really stand out, and I guess the edges as well. So I used the roll. I've only used 2 brushes in this. I used the roller to get the initial grey colours on, and I've only used 1 layer for the whole of the painting. So once I'd got the colours on with the roller, I switched to the oil brush, and I'm using the flat oil brush, not the thick gloss one, the flat thick gloss one, just the regular oil paint. Default settings, I haven't changed any of the settings, and I do not change the size of the brush either. This old sketch was done with 1 brush at 1 size, and I don't change anything except for the colour that I'm working with. So you notice I'm using sort of muted greens in the background and some purples. I felt I could see some purples in the photo, and that will help to push those distant trees back into the painting. It will add a little bit of aerial perspective to the scene. And as I come forward, I sort of add a little bit brighter colours. And there you can see I'm sort of just sketching in field work just to sort of get the lay of the land. And the colours that I'm using are definitely way brighter than what's in the photo. And now I'm going in with the bush to the left, much darker. So sort of a brave move. You have to be brave when you're doing stuff like this, I suppose, because it does just look like a really dark blob at this stage. And then I kind of go in with a yellowy colour. Oh, and I did use the palette knife. I have to say, as well as the brush, I did use the palette knife. Not a lot, and it's just the default one, just to smear the colours a little bit, especially in the sky, and soften off the edges. But not much at all, really. It was nearly all done with the brush. And you can see I'm sort of sculpting out those bushes there and using much lighter colours to give the impression that light is bouncing off those bushes. And I'm kind of really exaggerating the light and the colours to the photograph. I do sort of try and keep to a palette that's fairly close to the photograph, sort of like the rusty coloured edge that's sort of middle ground, and then these darker trees and the blues in those, but certainly sort of exaggerating the colours much more and picking them out. And I like the way here the paint smudged in, sort of the purple smudged in with that blue, and I just let that happen. I didn't try and block it out or anything. And it's just sort of growing on the paper, these brush strokes, and I'm really liking it. I can see now that it's sort of shaping up. I'm getting exactly what I want from this. And I think at the end, this sketch actually stands up as a painting. Although I just intended it to be a sketch, I was so pleased with it. I did stick it on Redbubble because I felt it was strong enough to be a finished piece in its own right and not just a sketch. I wouldn't normally put a sketch on Redbubble, but I just felt this had a freshness about it and is a finished piece. But having said that, it's just a sketch, really. You can see it, I'm really pleased. I've got this sort of bright green in the foreground, which really adds some depth to it, and I can almost walk down that lane. Well, not just yet, because obviously I haven't got any colour on the lane, really. But once I get that in, and it did seem to come together really fast. I didn't have to fiddle with it much at all or change it. I got the initial colours on and left it, and then just sort of added a little bit of shadows into the grass there. And then I do the same on the left hand side, not quite so strong obviously, because that's the side that's catching the sun. But before I do that, I then start to go in with these tree shapes, and just by using less pressure with the brush, you can get very fine lines. I've never really tried that with the brushes in Artrage before. I've always just changed the size of them, but I discovered that I could get very thin lines just by applying less pressure, and it sort of sculpts into that wet paint. So I was really pleased with that, and I'm sort of well chuffed. This could, at this point, could be a winter scene, I guess, where the leaves have actually fallen off the trees. But I do go in, obviously, with the leaves, and that nice flat brush really lent itself well to just sort of dabbing it on the canvas and creating strokes for the colour of those leaves. And I do start off really bright. Looking at it now, it's quite shocking that how bright I initially started those colours. I do sort of go over them slightly and paint them out, and then going in with even stronger orange. But that's what I wanted. I wanted to get this, it's almost cartoon-like, I suppose, but I wanted to get these really bright colours and then some darks in there to sort of counterbalance those sharp oranges. And just by putting those strokes on of the brush and just sort of flicking it, you get that square end, and then it sort of tapers. I was really liking that, and I was leaving nice white areas between it where the sky was sort of glowing through those leaves and the branches. So I've gone into some blue for the shadow underneath the leaves a little bit there. And I'm just sort of, I keep referring to the photo, making sure I've got the kind of proportions of the tree pretty much the same as in the photo. I wanted it to be, to fill up a decent amount of space. It's easy to make to be sort of a little bit timid and then have an half-hearted tree that isn't dominating that painting. So I think it was important that I come right over to 3/4 across to the left-hand side with those leaves, rather than being timid and keeping it much more tighter. So I'm glad I did that. Just to add in more leaves. At this point, I was just sort of thinking, this is turning out a nice sketch. I'll just put a little bit more detail in so it looks a little bit more finished. And I'm sort of going back in, painting in a few more branches and scratching it through the colour. That brush, it sort of smears the paint. Everything was done on one layer. I didn't add layers or anything like that. It was all done on one layer with that one brush. I think I'm into this one brush thing at the minute. I don't know why. It just sort of seems to be an interesting way to explore and paint. I'm hoping I put a bit more dark. I am. That's good. I wasn't sure if I was going to put any more dark leaves on that left hand side. And then I come in and I feel that I just need a little bit more detail now to that left of the path and the little grass verge. And also I decide that we need some highlights on that bush as well. And I will go in and sculpt. Just adds that sort of counterbalance. You've got a little bit of detail on the left hand side which sort of counterbalances that of the tree. And I'm just sort of not really, not going crazy, just flicking in a few brush strokes here and there, but just to add those final little bits of detail, sort of make that look like a row of bushes rather than just one long rectangular shape. And just sort of tweaking it here and there. Here we go. This bush was the one that was bothering me, that it felt as though when it started, I sort of did sort of tighten up the technique slightly, but not a lot. And I'm really pleased with this painting because I haven't overworked it. Quite often I'm tempted to just keep going and keep going. But with this one, I didn't. So that is it. I sign this painting and call it a day. That is the finished painting. I hope you have liked this video. If you have, a big thumbs up, as always, is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I have lots of videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.